I'm not sure if what I saw behind the bush was actually what I thought it was. A few moments later, my terrible assumption is confirmed. In disbelief, he keeps looking into the rear mirror, where the blue lights of a police car are shining in the distance. With the alcohol that his body still has to digest, we both know that our beloved car would go to the Italian state. The joint that I smoked before, almost by myself, combined with my tiredness, precludes a sudden driver change. In fact, considering the look on my face, I would probably get beaten up. Escaping the situation by fleeing is, with the 300 horsepower Alfa Romeos of the Italian police, just another impossibility, and so I'm mentally preparing myself for the trauma that is immediately ahead of us. In a curve where those blue lights disappear for a brief moment, he hits the brakes. My face hits the windshield, and with such force that I sustain a laceration. I'm sitting there, completely dazed, about to wake up from our dream, when this devil, in panic, and his brain full of adrenaline, starts dragging me to the back seat. At the last second, before eye contact is re-established, he manages to throw open the driver's door, and there we sit, as if nothing had happened. The police car comes around the curve at such speed it almost drives us in the back. The cop that stumbles out of his car screaming can't believe his fucking eyes as he sees both of us sitting on the rear bench seat. The driver fled into the forest. Francisco lies to his face in surprisingly good Italian, and how on earth would this poor man ever want to prove us wrong? When his colleague then jumps into the branches with his flashlight on, I find it difficult not to scream in delight. The officer skeptically inspects the inside of our car. As the other one comes back, the two of them decide to park the car at the next opportunity due to our established inability to drive. It is an image for eternity, as this police officer chauffeurs us in our completely trashed car to a little spot next to the road, where we would spend the rest of the night. The next morning, I'm still in shock. Coffee is the only thing on my mind, and maybe a sink where I could treat my blood-stained forehead together with that oversized cum stain on my pants. Francisco is nowhere to be found. Did they come back to get him last night? It was a damn close call, and if he hadn't been so quick-witted, our search would have been over before it began. The European dream would probably be best defined as from slave to freedom. My God, if all those people who are hoping to make their way to this continent were aware of the kind of madhouse Europe has become, they would probably think twice about taking the dangerous journey. If you've managed to gain some capital and got the ball rolling, everything is fine. Until then, you're playing the walk-on part. And how are you supposed to gain capital if there's an apartment for which you have to pay rent, and a family that wants to be taken care of? About a month ago, people in Switzerland voted 78 to 22 against an unconditional basic income. Hopefully, Switzerland, as one of the countries with the most settled millionaires, will not be seen as an example for the rest of the world. I should learn to switch off my head, which hurts like hell from yesterday's emergency braking. Just as I'm wondering again about the whereabouts of my companion, I see him walking up the street. Annoyed and with starter cable in his hand, I notice a smile on his face as he raises his gaze, as he beholds my pitiable sight. Our chauffeur left the lights on, he says with that furtive smile that I don't care about given my headache. We will have to wait until someone else ventures into this solitude. I hope that the next gas station isn't too far away. With the fuel, it isn't looking good either. We would spend the next 2 hours playing Yahtzee. A game that has put our friendship to the test already several times. Absolutely nothing is given for free here, and whenever it comes to a showdown, the atmosphere is usually brutal. When a miracle does occur, and one of us is honored with the Yahtzee, the joy is indescribable, and so Yahtzee is a game that brings people together. As on this questionable morning in round 7, I serve a Yahtzee first hand, and we are lying in each other's arms, screaming. A car pulls up to our spot. A middle-aged couple is willing to free us from our misery, and my headache seems to have disappeared. He's wearing a nice shirt, she's wearing a nice blouse. Jehovah is the name of their king, and my headache is back. While the man, together with Francisco, looks after our car, she leads me by the hand to the tailgate to take care of my laceration. These witnesses are really nice people, but the idea that they are the only ones who will get away with a black eye after the apocalypse doesn't make any sense to me. She tells me about the infinity of her kingdom, and I pray to her king for the car to finally start. But no, I don't know if it's my fault or the fault of Jehovah. Either way, the car won't start, and I'm on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Since there's no reception in this valley, they offer us to drive with them to the nearest workshop to get advice from a mechanic. We decide that one of us will take on this task, and since I'm the one with the bandage around my head and the huge stain on my pants, it's Francisco who sets off with the witnesses. I see their car disappearing around the next bend and find something about it so extremely funny that I have to sit down on the ground laughing. 2 more hours pass before a tow truck pulls up, head-to-head with our vehicle. An old mechanic with a burned-down cigarette between his lips wired both cars, and on the first try, the sound of the engine is back in our ears. Without saying a word, he packs up and disappears. Our journey can continue, and since the battery has to recover, the coffee is still a long time coming. With the last bit of gas, we should make it to the next gas station. The idea of someone else having to help us with the fuel makes me sweat. That was a really nice couple. The woman told me that nothing could keep us from reaching our goal if we would carry Jesus Christ with us. He reaches into his t-shirt and pulls out an exaggeratedly large crucifix, which he wears around his neck. I was wondering where this glow that surrounded him since his return came from. I am a witness, he screams, that my ears ring. I dedicate the rest of the day to Jehovah's kingdom. He honks and stretches his cross towards a group of cyclists who in the midday heat are slowly going up the slope which we are currently speeding down. The best of canned heat that Francisco's father gave us is just starting again from the beginning. I am rolling a joint and a question pops into my head. If the generation of '68 was the generation of peace and love, how can it be that we are facing the same problems today as people did back then? I mean, they experienced those times, and yet they are the same as their conservative parents were back then. What society thinks about them and their children is so much more important than everything else they once vowed never to forget. How can it be that refugee homes are burning and people stand around them in a circle cheering? After an event like Woodstock, how could fear ever find its way back to people? Floor the pedal, I have the feeling that something is on our heels. Humanity needs to be reminded that fences do not protect but imprison. I am ashamed for the Europe I was born into, and for all the bright minds who prefer protecting a lost economy to humanity. Finally, I see the yellow shell on a pole in the distance. The shell that is supposed to protect us from another mishap. It's one of those mega gas stations where everything you can imagine is available at the double price, and the line of trucks points to the beginning of the highway. We fill up the tank, and enter this temple of a consumer society in which one can get literally everything one can and cannot imagine. From the smoked 15-kilo pork knuckle to the electric sports car for the little one. I see air mattresses at half price, barbecue grills and curtains. Seriously, who buys their curtains at the gas station? Bread machines, plastic plants, even foot baths and starter sets for golfers. I feel dizzy. After getting my coffee and the damn expensive panini pomodoro at the counter, I quickly make my way back to the checkout where I'm offered whoopee cushions and cosmetics. My debt paid, I rush out the door and head back to the car. What feels like an eternity later, Francisco strolls towards me with a new pair of sunglasses on his nose and a harmonica in his mouth. One of those air mattresses is stuck under his arm, and he has that grin on his face again. He throws a necklace with the symbols of the 7 world religions around my neck. Without saying a word, he continues to play his song and sits down under a tree in the shade to enjoy his antipasti with avocado and crackers. He's someone who knows how to take things to the extreme and at the same time carries that joy within himself that every now and then makes you want to punch him in the face. As we sit there, knowing that from now on things would continue at the pace that is suitable for 2 racing drivers, I see a trucker having trouble changing one of the tires on his trailer. I walk over to him. The midday sun burns down on everything that hasn't taken refuge in the shade. "Do you need help?" I ask him, who turns around, wiping his forehead, visibly relieved. When the 2 of us can't get the tire on the axle, Francisco comes running, and the 3 of us manage to change the tire. On this tour, he takes 7 tons of pickles from Milan to Amsterdam. As a thank you, he gives us a glass of his cargo, and then there was something else he wanted to give us. He climbs into the cab and comes back with shining eyes. In his hands, he holds a neatly folded European flag, which, as he tells us, has nothing to do with any ideology or politics. In its beauty, it represents the freedom to roam freely on this continent and beyond its borders. In the name of all the people who live here and of those who are going to, no matter where these people come from or what they believe in, he hands us the flag and says that we should enjoy the pickles. He sounds the horn and drives off. Fuck, wait! Francisco runs back into the gas station and comes out with Beethoven's 9th and the watermelon on his shoulder. "Go!" he shouts at me, and I manage to start off with squealing tires. We pick up speed. The salty smell of the Adriatic is in the air. He hung the melon in a wet cloth bag on the side mirror, and the 9th Symphony plays with the volume control at maximum. We are now on the plain which stretches from the Alps to the Mediterranean. The last mountains around us slowly disappear, the horizon expands in the distance. Vineyards define the landscape. The holiday beaches of Central Europe are located along the coast, just like our destination. A city which was built into the sea for fear of being slaughtered by the barbarians. Further and further, we push into the region, and when we read the name of the city in question for the first time on the street sign, our cheers even drown out the deafening Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra.